the area of revenue mobilization, we expect allocation from the central government, but there's an element of the revenue that we need to generate. I think that's an area that we can do better. I have seen we've not said we will develop capacity, because for you to deal with this matter, you need to have people with capacity. And amongst the MCDF, I believe we've got resources that are available, not even for any payment. I'm very sure through the chair we would be able to do that, because I know there are other people within MCDF who will be commenting on the same. I think I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Asante sana, Bwana Chande. We have UNV, Professor Muteti.
The chair is here. Muscular quit. Well, Your Excellency, and all those present, good afternoon, good evening. Well, mine is also a short comment, and I was looking at the own source revenue, which is at 1 billion, and I think we can improve on that. Maybe if we do 20%, 2 billion, that would go a long way in meeting some of our needs. The recurrent versus development at 30%. Is it at 2%? I know the requirement 70-30, but I think I've seen some counties doing 60-40. So if we can do, Governor, 35%, that will still help. The gross county product, we are only contributing 1% to the national GDP. Pengine ndio watu wanaona, nyinyi 1% you can go mnaenda. Let's see what we can do, because some counties are doing 5%, 6%. And I think if you look at Machakos at 4%, we can do better. Let's see how we can improve our gross county product, and I think that will also, there are strategies which we can, put in place, which can help us, do so. I think zile zingine zitafuatilia. Asante.
Asante sana, Professor Muteti. Of course, where we may need some clarification on some of the issues, the Secretariat will be able to even get directly to the speakers so that they can send us any more information that would be of help. Bwana Stephen Zonzi. Okay, I'm told the MCDF is covered. We have Kiswa. Kiswa, the chair is not around, but I can see Tom Losa. Some comments?
Good evening. Mine is just to say the presentation by Waziri was excellent, and I think it's a good start. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very good. We have Aka, please. Kama Makueni. Makueni.
Good evening. And Makueni, Muyaseo. Allow me to request our treasurer to give comments on our behalf. My name is Anne Mudusi, the chair of the management board. Thank you.
Good evening. I do thank the CS for the great presentation. My name is Phyllis Mutua from Boni, and we want to thank God for giving us this chance as Makueni Aka. And Makueni mwasio. Mwasio ingi? Na kwa ni museo. The issues I want to really desire to hear the voice of the government. First, on your development agendas, I've tried to follow, but I've not seen much on women. We really desire to hear what is happening in Makueni for women and how do we support in this area as the government wants to support us. That is very key for us. We have also talked about what you call in agriculture chain development, value chain development. I would want to hear more on that area. What is it that we are looking at that is going to give us this value chain that we are talking about? On the numbers, Madam CS, I see 32% on development. I have not calculated the salaries and the operations. Makueni, our desire and our prayer is, as we talk of these mega projects, we would want to hear the conclusion of the many projects that we have, and especially so in women. Water. We struggle majorly to get water. We have projects for women that we cannot move just because of water. How are we helping the county? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Waziri, just to add just one point, just to support the issue of water, as the women of Makueni and also from where I serve in the municipality of Emali Sultan, we are requesting the county government considers participatory development on issues water. One of the biggest challenges that we've had with water infrastructure is vandalism. And the only way to curb that is to ensure that for ownership, we all get involved. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And Mudosi is also the chair of the Emali Sultanahmood municipality. We want to hear from Joshua Musimi from the office of, yes.
I think I'm being promoted up to a table. I don't know for whatever reason. But let me go there. James, I'm saying I receive. Thank you. Let me say good evening to everyone. I wear several hats. I'm a member of MCBF. I'm chair of TAHA Boni, and now I'm representing the Office of the Controller Budget. So I have at least 3 hats on me today. I wanted to give comments on behalf of both MCBF, TAHA, and also the office I work for. I was able to go through the documents that were shared, and I picked, and you'll allow me to go into slightly details so that we are able to get the issues we are discussing today. I looked at, and the presentation was excellent. You know, what you presented was, you know, articulate to the point, but then having looked at the CIDP and the county fiscal strategy paper and also the budget highlights, I picked a number of issues which I want to highlight for improvement. And I'll pick the first one from CIDP. I looked at the flagship projects from the CIDP, and what drew my interest was infrastructure that is on model health centers. We are proposing to do 30 health centers, and this is contained on page 157 of the CIDP, those who want to reference. When I looked at that, I felt it's capital intensive. And I looked at the major document and I found we have a total of 238 health facilities in Makueni County. If we adopt the new model, then it means we are trying to construct more health facilities. And what does that mean? We will require personnel, equipment, and many others. The expenditure, if I look at the personnel, the health sector in Makueni has a wage bill of 2 billion, which is equivalent to 57% of the total county wage bill. If we are to construct 30 more centers, Your Excellency, and I'm not saying this is a wrong thing, then it means it has those other, underlying expenditures. We require for personnel for those facilities. So what is the proposal I'm making here? I'm saying that I would propose that we look at the 238 facilities and probably do some staff rationalization so that we optimize on the available human resource so that we deliver what we want to deliver. 2, on the same, we map out and upgrade. Other than building the 30 new one, we could upgrade even the level 4s to level 5. That way, we'll also be able to attain the target we are working with without having to construct new facilities. The second part on the CIDP, and I looked through the CIDP, although when the Waziri presented, the comment I'm presenting here, I hear you talk about it, but I was not able to get it in the CIDP, unless you have a different document. I did not see how you are able to, link the CIDP to the main planning document, that is the Vision 2030, the MTP. I know we have finalized the MTP4. That one is, the linkage did not come out clearly. Why do I say this? The flagship projects, and we all know that the CIDP means county integrated. You need to be able to integrate the projects you have at the county level with what we have at the national level, because that still counts for Makueni. So if we leave the ones for the national government, most of us will not be able to monitor, will not follow them through. But these are the ones which carry a lot of resources to Makueni, and we can leverage on that and get quite a lot of mileage. A number of them are cross-cutting, particularly projects and programs that involve the county and the national government, the county with other counties, like the infrastructure roads, where we, border with other counties, Kitui, Taita-Taveta to the south, Kajiado on the other side. Something, we need to link the sectoral plans with the urban and city plans within the county. But what struck my eye again was we are missing a very important area of sustainable development goals. And I was happy when Mbudusi and the team talked about what are we doing to bring the women on board. I wear another hat, the fourth one now. I'm also a gender champion. And therefore I'm looking at how do we bring the issues of gender? How do we bring the issues of the SDGs? I know the CIDP, and I see some of the planners here who have worked with before. There's a part where we are supposed to bring in the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So we need to identify, for instance, and I picked Makueni care scheme vis-a-vis the universal health care. We are supposed to link this to see how do they complement each other, because we are not working in isolation. Makueni has been cited for the Makueni health care scheme, which is working well, but then we need to leverage on the universal health care from the national government. There is need also to integrate these SDGs with the policies and the plans and prepare reports on how are we implementing these SDGs. That is on the CIDP. On the county fiscal strategy paper, a number of people have talked about the on-source revenue. One of the things that was missing is how do we capture our on-source revenue? I did not see data by what streams are bringing in that county revenue. James may be talking about this later if he is given the opportunity. But I felt this is missing. We are not able to monitor and see where are we getting the revenue. One of the challenges in on-source revenue, Your Excellency, is the administration cost. How much do we invest in order to collect? We may be spending more than we are collecting. And therefore, we need to look at the revenue streams and drop those ones we think they are not cost effective. That would be a good one. We can focus on about 10, 15, that will deliver 90% of what we are looking for. Then a list of 120, yet 8 of them do not even give us, they cannot even break even, if I may use that word. This is another part, because for us to be able to target, and I will tie this one with the numbers presented by the minister. I saw you said you want to collect a billion from on-source revenue. The current target for this year is 850. But I wanted to see the actual for 2021-22 and where we are 2022-2023. So that we see, because we use the historical trends for us to be able to set the target. To say we can raise a billion is a good thing, but are we going to achieve this? If we are to achieve, let's see the trend. What does the trend say about this? You may need to give us some numbers from what you are. Then, under fiscal responsibility principles, we have made some targets here, we've missed some others. I want to congratulate the county. It's one of the few counties that are doing well in terms of wage bill. We are doing 35.4% of the total county revenue. We have counties that are doing worse than this, 56 towards 60. These are good ones. But this is an effort, because we are saying the average for the national, for all the counties is 43.6. So I think we can keep that, but not at the expense of the services. While we complied, and I think the minister mentioned about this as a fiscal responsibility, and one more person here, that under Section 107 of the PFM Act, we are required to allocate at least 30% to development and 7% of the expenditure to recurrent. But when you look at the county government regulation, the PFM regulation 2015, and particularly regulation 25, it says that on the expenditure side, we are supposed to attain at least 30% of the expenditure. Allocation is simple. All of us meet that target. But let's look at regulation 25, and particularly I think regulation 25 subsection G, it says that at least 30%. But when I looked at the county government, for development expenditure, we were only able to absorb 60%. So we are saying out of the 30 you allocated for the last financial year, because you are proposing to allocate 32, you only spend about half. That should be about 18. 60% of the 30 you had allocated, then you have not met that target. Waziri kazi kwako. Because that is the interpretation, not just the allocation. I'm happy the numbers you presented, they look rosy, but when you please them in the terms of expenditure, then we see a different picture. Because 60% of 30 will be slightly above 18%. So we've not met that fiscal responsibility principle. And this has its own repercussions. You see, if we are not able to deliver on the development, then services are curtailed. I want to look at another area, and all of us, the minister mentioned about the bottom approach, the better. That is the bottom up economic transformation agenda. That's the better. Now the abbreviation is better. We've collapsed at the national level. We've tried to zero down into 5 major sectors from the 10 or so we used to have. Mainly the focus is on agriculture, which you addressed. We have the micro and small medium enterprises. I've also seen you address the special economic zones at AMSA. I've also seen housing. Housing did not say, housing and settlement, you are silent on it. Healthcare, you've given it prominence. And digital superhighway and creative industry. While you've touched on the industry and some part of ICT, that is where the future is. The youth now are into that sector. So that's where we need to create employment for our youth. So let's see what we can do about that sector, so that we put more emphasis, so that we create more employment and engage our youth. A few other things I picked, and the data you presented, while it was a good attempt, the gross county product, the GCP, the equivalent of GDP at the national level. The data is up to 2020. We are in 2023. So can we use that? And there's a word you used here, you say that you want evidence-based. That will not be evidence, because it's outdated. What am I proposing here? Your Excellency, you need a statistical unit at the county level, because it is the data that will give you the evidence you want. So if we are relying on data published by KBS 2.5 years ago, then that data is not up to date. So it's important we move with the times, and we can be able to get, and I know there's a lot of capacity here. We have a lot of youth who have been trained for the economics and statistics. They can come in here. I saw the issue of cash transfer, and I'm not a proponent of cash transfers. Probably I will throw this as a challenge to the planners and the economists here. Can we think twice about the cash transfers? One, they are abused. Two, I don't think they are cost effective, the cash transfers. I'm not saying, Governor, you go backwards, but let it be evaluated. Ask them to do some further research. And let's see what the youth fund at the national level has done. Let's look at other funds, because most of the counties are establishing those cash transfers. They have performed poorly from where I sit now, because I've been able to see different counties. The default rate, this one I know is for those who are vulnerable, but even for where we are giving cash transfers for trade, for others, they have not been able to pay back. So the default rate is quite high, and they feel like this is free money. So let's not create over dependency to our population, such that they are waiting for the government to give. Please, let's train them out to fish, not to give them the fish. Land-based revenue, the last one, and I think I will stop here at some point here. It will be important for us to develop evaluation role. I know in this country the evaluation role we are using is dated. It's really quite old. It does not measure up to the current rates.
Let me just adopt earlier and say that sometimes it's quite an act to speak after Musi.